Bienvenidos. Welcome to a panel discussion presented by the artists of the Gateway to Sense of Wonder art show, which will be opening this spring. This entire show is being organized and presented by the New Mexico Arts Imaginative Collective. Okay, so to start off with, we're going to go ahead and just introduce ourselves. My name is Rudy J. Miera. I'm a local artist, and the type of art that I'm going to be presenting in the Gateway to Sense of Wonder show are a collection of acrylic paintings. I work with acrylic on gesso on canvas. A couple of them were done on linen. And basically, I've mainly used just acrylic on gesso, I think a little bit of impasto in a couple of the paintings. And with that, I'd like to pass it on to Alexandra. Go ahead and tell us your name and your types of materials and what type of art you're going to be showing.
Thank you, Rudy. My name is Alexandra Delamore. I'm a painter, artist. Most of the paintings that I will have at the open space will be on their oil. I also, aside from the ones that I'm going to have there, I make mobiles out of styrofoam that I find using wood filler that I sand and acrylic and paint and so forth. I also write poetry, which a lot of times will be in my paintings. Also types of whatever happens in the news, like Ukraine. I'm painting on a painting of that now. It's also got to be very subtle with the World Trade Center. So I've been painting since since I was a kid, but professionally since 1981. And that's about it.
Thank you. And we'll go on to Bobby Jones.
Hi, I'm Bobby Jones. I am a artist/painter, and recently I've gotten into publishing my artwork, photographs, and creating coloring books and selling them on Amazon. I've been professionally painting since 1989 when I graduated from Texas Tech University with a degree in fine arts, painting and drawing. That was my studio emphasis at Texas Tech. That's my family's alma mater. I happen to be a Texas Tech legacy going all the way back to my maternal grandmother when she graduated from Texas Tech in 1932. I also work for Albuquerque Public Schools in the special ed classroom at one of the special ed classrooms at Mark Twain Elementary School, and I enjoy working with those kids with special needs. I've worked in different types of classrooms and have encouraged children to create artwork while working in those classrooms as well. And I just enjoy it. What I mainly do is I combine my painting and drawing skills on my canvas paintings. I put the acrylic paints first, and then I draw on top of it using permanent markers and metallic markers. And I'm mainly influenced by the surrounding landscape here in New Mexico and the skies, the clouds, things that I see here every day in New Mexico and Albuquerque influence my work, as well as everyday objects like hearts and butterflies and sunflowers and everything.
Thank you, Bobby. And now we'll go on to Rebecca.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Volgren. I am submitting stained glass. I do leaded, melted lead, I do lead came, and I'm also putting in some mosaic pieces for everybody to enjoy, and that's what I do.
Thank you, Rebecca. Vance?
Thank you. My name is Vance Sterling, and I'm a wood sculptor. I use tree branches is my medium. So the tree branches, the way that the tree grows actually determines the shape of the sculpture, which I can maybe get into more details about that later, but that's generally what I do.
Thank you very much. Okay, so Let's talk a little bit about our artistic or aesthetic intentions, what we're going to wish to communicate with the pieces that we have in this particular show. For the last several years, I've been working on a series of what I call mountainscapes. They're landscapes primarily focused on the view, the west-facing Sandia Mountains, which I see every morning, afternoon, and evening, because where my wife and I live in Corrales, when I sit on the back porch, that's exactly what I see. So I get to see it all four seasons of the year, 365 days a year, except for the one day that we get fog, right? And what I am trying to, part of my aesthetic goal is to show the varying ways that those mountains present themselves to us, depending whether it's a morning or evening, a sunset, or whatever. Those colors are going to change. They also change in subtle ways depending on what season we're in and the height of the sun and so on. And what I've done is, besides trying to communicate with this series that I made of paintings of the Sandia Mountains, I'm trying to show also that there is, leading right up to the mountains, there's a community that has grown. In fact, Karen and Bill live in the foothills. And so what I've most recently been doing is combining a little bit, smaller scale of course, but showing some of the architecture that can and could and may someday exist in terms of dwellings that are there in the foothills. I have mainly some imaginative types of buildings that I've inserted on the bottom, okay? They're always smaller in scale, but there is sometimes a symbiotic relationship. You know, they kind of naturally grow into the mountains. The way the La Luz apartments were originally designed to blend into the West Mesa. So what I'm trying to do is show, yes, the mountains are there, but there are people there coexisting, and to show how those interact. So artistic and aesthetic intentions were the pieces that we're going to be seeing in the Gateway to Sense of Wonder show. What are you showing with those?
Well, the paintings, a lot of them come from my hiking in the foothills. Mm-hmm. Some of them are paths. Another one of the ones that I really care for is a sunset in the foothills. Mm-hmm. It's an oil painting. And of the path, a lot of times I will make sketches and paint the path as it's going along off of, say, Manol. I go up there, and then also went to the volcanoes. One that I made was Path to the Volcanoes. The other two that I'm putting in that are not to do with the landscape of chupacabras.
Okay.
So I have two of those, which is a mythical creature that's supposed to come up from Mexico and, you know, sucks the blood from goats and chickens, and I've heard stories of that. So two of those paintings are of the chupacabra, and one is an abstract of the Rio Grande River, and it's a small one, and which is primarily blues of the mountains and a yellowish white of the river going around through that.
Thank you. Bobby, what are your artistic aesthetic intentions, and what do you wish to communicate with the pieces that you'll be showing in the Gateway to Sense of Wonder?
First of all, I was encouraged to go out to the Open Space Visitor Center, and the day that I did, it was a late spring day, and there was a rainstorm that had happened, and it had finished raining, and the bright colors that were present in my mind were purples and yellow greens. And so I took those two colors and created abstract landscapes using abstract images, curves, and then drew the lines and everything. Mm-hmm. And then the other colors that came to my mind were oranges and reds, along with that color scheme, and so I created those abstract landscapes.
Can't wait to see them. Now, you didn't take any photographs or anything. This was just all from memory?
Yes, yes, this is the colors that were present in my mind.
And then you added to them later on.
Right.
Okay. Artistic, aesthetic intentions of the works that we're going to be seeing in the show at the open space.
I don't really have any one inspiration. It's just
Okay.
whatever pops into my head at the time. I kind of sketch it out and see if I can turn that into a stained glass piece of whatever it turns into.
Yes.
For this show, I really don't even have one inspiration. It's just like, oh, this looks like it would be really cool. Or one of the pieces I'm going to be showing it's like a really close up of owl eyes and like all the details that you see. And it's one of my favorite pieces I've made, actually. See it, it's really cool. But I didn't say before, but I'm a scuba diving instructor, so a lot of my work comes from under the ocean. I really am inspired a lot by nature, so all my pieces, not all of them, many of them are very nature inspired. The doors I've done, the lampshades I've done, just different types of pieces just have that natural balance in them, and there's elements from everywhere I've been and the things I've seen and all the kind of things I like to do. So I'm real simple. I don't really...
Well, it sounds like, some people journal, but it sounds like your artwork is a physical representation of your journey, and so you're open to whatever experience you have, and then you re-express it. Is that correct?
I try to, one of the things I like to do is, stained glass can be very 2D, and I like to make it move. I try to really get movement into the pieces using the grain of the glass, the pattern that's in there, and just try to put that in the glass and make it come alive.
Thank you,
So,
Rebecca.
Thank you.
Vance, artistic, aesthetic intentions of the pieces we will be seeing at the Open Space Art Show.
Well, I'm going to round out the responses here and say, nature is definitely an inspiration for me. Maybe something that brings us all together here.
Yes.
What I look at, like my main inspiration comes directly from the forest, really, from the trees. Because I use tree branches as they naturally grow, so when I have a particular idea in mind, like I want to do something that's a little straighter, then I have to pick the forest that I'm going to go to find the branches that will give me the kind of shape I'm looking for. Or if there's one that I want a lot of movement in, I'll find a forest that the trees are very twisty. It might be a windy area where the trees get very twisty, so I can use those shapes from the branches to create the piece. So that's my top inspiration, really, is the trees. So what I try to do in the sculpture is I try to take the tree and the way that the tree grows and kind of meld that with more of, at times like a mythological or archetypal kind of figure, like a warrior, a dancer, or a sage, or a mystic, and try to bring those kind of human symbolic experiences, into the sculpture, bringing the tree and the imagery from myths and human experiences.
I see.
Yeah.
So, Vance, do you essentially use found objects? In other words, are all of these on the ground, or do you sometimes pull a branch off of a tree if it's already rotting or something
Yeah,
like
a
that?
lot of
Or how
times
does
I'll
that
take
work?
it off the tree itself.
Okay.
If it's on the ground, a lot of times it'll be too rotten for me to use.
Okay.
So I use dead branches that I cut off of trees. If I find a tree that's completely dead, and most of my trees are shrubby and kind of twisty,
Right.
and so like the entire tree is dead, and that's like gold for me.
Right.
Yeah,
Lots of possibilities.
lots of possibilities.
Alexandra, you mentioned that one of your pieces, which has the river, you did it kind of abstractly, and it was more the shapes and the colors. So maybe we could explore the idea of to what extent are the pieces that we've done, or pieces that are going to be displayed, to what extent are they ambiguous, or is there, or not obvious, and maybe they project mystery? I know for myself, I have chosen to exaggerate certain aspects of my view of the mountains. Sometimes I've changed the colors, sometimes I've changed the shape, starting with the basic shape that's always kind of there. And I guess my main contribution to modifying the image that's before me is lately I've been, or the last several years, been working kind of in a neo-cubist style. In other words, I've chosen to make some aspects of the western face of the Sandias look like you're not exactly sure if it's middle ground or background, in some cases even foreground, mixing them all up, just so that it has the feeling of looking at it from different points of view or maybe from different points in time. It's the same mountain, but looking at it from a different point of view and stuff like that. So I was wondering if all of your images are self-evident, or is there some mystery? It sounds like you sometimes push and pull if you're using a, maybe a
Abstract.
cubist abstract.
Well,
right.
Most of mine are representational. What you see,
Okay.
what you see is what it is.
You can
the
always
mountains.
recognize it.
The ones that are kind of abstract, of course, are the chupacabras. What do they look like? The other one is a small one of the Rio Grande. That was just, in my mind, is how it flows. If you go to the Bosque, you see it's going here and it goes around and so forth. So those, generally, what I do are representational, except, a couple of the ones that I'm putting into the show right now.
Now, with the chupacabra, since nobody's ever actually seen or caught one like they haven't caught Bigfoot, actually, what did you use for your source imagery? Did you kind of make it more like a coyote or something like that?
No,
or what?
it looks kind of like a cross between a weasel,
Okay.
or because they do suck, from the chicken, and or a prairie dog, or it's coming up, and then it's kind of under a spray of red paint and so forth. The other one is blue, and it's kind of running, and it's dark. They're both kind of dark, and not menacing, and kind of fun. And they were from the stories that people told me. So, okay, what is it? It's probably got little hands, but the hands aren't really, you can see it, but it's kind of looking around for its prey, or it's just looking around, like a prairie dog comes down and goes, ooh, what's going on, So it's kind of like, here I am. I came up from Mexico in the back of a pickup, and here I am in Taos or Albuquerque.
So we don't see an actual goat or chicken that it's going after. You
No,
just
no,
see
no,
the
nothing
chupacabra.
bloody. It's very nice.
The
No.
chupacabra.
It's very. I think somebody might like one of these paintings on their wall, and I thought of that. I said, oh, I'm
Okay.
going to put them in the
There
show.
we go. So it primarily PG imagery. We can have, this is a show for the family. We can have children, kids
Right.
can go
Oh,
and enjoy
absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
Bobby, it sounds like you actually abstracted when you went out on your visit to the Open Space Center. And you came back with the colors, but you imposed shapes. Am I correct in saying that? And if so, how did you go about that?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say shapes. It was more like when you look at my work, it starts taking on an abstract landscape like mountains and foothills, and also the landscaping down there by the Open Space Visitor Center, the floodplains,
Okay.
and everything that's associated with the New Mexico landscape, and then clouds. I love clouds. Someday I'll probably be up there in the sky sculpting clouds with God and creating those beautiful cloud formations that we see here in New Mexico during the summertime and especially in the monsoon seasons. Yes, that's where I find the true beauty of New Mexico is in the skies, the sunsets, the sunrises.
Thank you for sharing that. So you're sculpting with clouds and all those shapes right now, but later on you'll be sculpting
Right.
the universe. Okay.
Oh yes, definitely.
Excellent. Rebecca, is it always obvious what the imagery is choosing to being portrayed in the imagery, or are there spaces for us to maybe guess or maybe imagine something else being there?
Wow, Rudy. The pieces that I'm putting in the show are very obvious what they are.
Okay.
But it's very fun to play with glass scraps and just kind of throw them out and see where they lay and try to make some images out of that. I've done that. I've put images into images.
Okay.
So one of the pieces that you'll see, it's in the shape of a bear, but it's actually a landscape piece. like in the shape of the bear. So that one was pretty cool. What else? I don't know. It's just, glass is just one of these things. You can do anything with it to a point. There's a limit, obviously. You can melt it, you could shape it, you can cut it. You can cut 13 inches on a narrow strip. But how you shape it and work it, and you can do 3D pieces with it too. I've done some of those, which are really fun. But it's all, I don't know. You can do some stuff.
Rebecca, on your website, I noticed there was a butterfly, but it was white. It wasn't, say, the color of a monarch butterfly or whatever. So you've at least modified the colors, even if
Yes.
the shapes are true to nature.
Yes. So there's a couple of those pieces, I think, on the website. I do a lot of nature pieces. I was looking. I did a backsplash for my parents, which is a mosaic, so that you can't have lead in a kitchen. So it's a mosaic. It's basically glued glass and grouted. And so the colors can, depending on what's around it or how you want that image to pop, you can use the colors to focus on an image and bring out the characteristics and the details that way. Mm-hmm. So thank you for reminding me about that. I, take that for granted, apparently.
And the dragonfly, too, not to forget.
Yeah, the dragon. Yeah, that was probably in the same piece. Yeah.
I see.
Thank you.
So Vance, I know that Joseph Campbell often talks about how we have symbols or characters or whatever that are common to us all, the collective unconscious or whatever. And then there are some that are specific to specific cultures. How would you describe your pieces as coming across? Are they totally personal? Are they coming out of a cultural background or anything like that? Or are they just more universal than anything else?
I think they're more universal.
Okay.
I think, and one thing Joseph Campbell taught us was about, these universal kind of symbols
Yes.
that appear in cultures from all over. And so we do find, common archetypal imagery like a warrior or a lover or a king or something, across different cultures and across different times, these symbols have arisen.
Right.
And so for me, I talked about how I look at the tree, I go to the tree, I see the forest and what kind of energy is in that forest. And that's kind of what I do. I generally I have an idea in mind of what I want to do when I start. But I have to hold it with a very loose grip, because everything that I do is determined by the tree and how the tree grows. And so I can search and search and search. If I'm doing a sculpture, it's all very organic design process. So I have an idea, but I can't create exactly what I see. So I start at some point on the sculpture. Maybe I start at the legs, or sometimes I start at the shoulders, and then just kind of go from there. And like one branch will do some kind of little twist, and so I have to find something that will match that twist.
Okay.
And there are times when I spend all day searching for a branch in a certain shape, and I just can't find it. And so then I have to get to the point where I say, okay, do I change what I had in mind because the forest is not giving me what I need, or do I keep looking? And that's a decision that I have to make every day, pretty much.
So sometimes you don't want us to see the forest for the trees, but sometimes you don't even want us to see the tree for the branches, because you're going for something a little more specific, right?
Yeah.
And then if
yeah.
that's not working out, you either change what branch you were going to use,
Right.
or go with that branch and change maybe what's going to come out of it. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the final product, I don't even know what it'll look like until it's finished.
Well, then you're describing to me something that we'll all talk about later on, but that's a perfect, I think, definition of sense of wonder, because if you don't know exactly what the final piece is going to look like, you're approaching it with a type of awe
Yeah.
in regards to your reaction to nature that allows it to become an organic piece that grows out of that search, that journey.
I'm hearing that same sentiment from everyone on the
Yeah, I
panel.
think so. We all have
a sense of awe.
I think we have a whole lot in common.